Greetings and welcome to PJ's Kitchen. My name is Peter James from the website peterjamesx.com with the Babylon Report. This evening we are looking at the subject false Jews. False Jews of the synagogue of Satan. Now before we get into this subject, I'd like to tell you that this video already has the notes up on the website peterjamesx.com, and the notes are extensive, so I'm really going to be skipping through the video, so I'm relying on you to go onto the website and download the notes. This is one of 3 videos that are related. The first one that has been put up is Babylon is not the United States. This one is false Jews, and the one that will follow, for which the notes are already up, is the fate of Jerusalem, Israel, and biblical Israel. Again, the notes for there are very extensive, and you really need to take them down. So before we go on, I'd like to say this is not an anti-Semitic diatribe, whatever that might mean, but rather it is a statement of known facts with the Bible verses that relate. When the word Jew is used in this video, it is referring to false Jews. Now, Benjamin Friedman of Common Sense, he died a few years ago. He has done extensive work and written, which we quote some of it here. It's just too extensive to go into at this time. Jesus was not a Jew. Jesus was a Judean. The word Jew is a made-up word which was created between 1300 and 1700 AD. The word Jew simply did not exist at the time either the Old or New Testament was written. Benjamin Friedman explains the word should be Judean. It means a member of the biblical tribe of Judah. King David was of Judah, therefore a Judean. Jesus Christ was of Judah, therefore a Judean. So that is all I would like to say about this, because it is really an important point, because the people calling themselves Jews are using this word in order to have their own way, get their will over the rest of the world. And as Friedman says, this alleged kingship comes from the myth of their common ancestry with the so-called Jews of the Holy Land in the Old Testament history. A fiction based on a fable. What a nice phrase. A fiction based on a fable. So, as I say, go to the website and you will be able to see exactly how this word evolved. Well, I would like to ask the question, why would the eternal God use false Jews who are actually Antichrist to do the groundwork for setting up his coming holy righteous kingdom? That's a good question. You need to think about it. You know, these false Jews reason that by putting a hedge around the commandments, that would stop us breaking the commandments. Of course, this is completely false, particularly in the New Testament era. How can any ritual affect what happens in my mind? And the idea that lots of man-made rituals are required is just also completely false. We need to be aware that these rituals can become an idol and replace the need for Christ to save us. And this alone can be a massive stumbling block to the Jews. It means they can say, and they do say, that there is no need for Christ. You know, most Christians, like the Jews, do not understand the simple fact that instead of the requirements of the eternal God being lessened in the New Testament. In fact, the bar has been raised enormously. No hedge of any size and no ritual of any complexity can meet the standards now required. The rituals and sacrifices were fulfilled by Christ. But the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments, and we can say the festivals as well, all remain intact today. You know, under the New Covenant, to think the deed, e.g. adultery, is to sin. It didn't require the actual act. In the Old Covenant, under the Old Covenant, the act was a sin. You know, Matthew 5:28 says, "But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." All the churches and churchianity that lead their flocks astray need to cease their erroneous teachings and lead people back to Christ and his commandments, his statutes and his judgments. The very same Old Testament which the Jews studiously study states that there is only one way for this higher calling to be successfully implemented. It requires the indwelling Holy Spirit, which is Christ, which is none other than the Godhead. We have got 3 documents that deal with this. Christ is God, Christ is the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is God. Those are available on the websites. As Jews deny that Christ was who he was, this will be doubly impossible for them. We also need to be very careful with any new teaching that is coming your way and just deviates towards the Talmud. It is happening. You know, in Ezekiel 36, it tells us that we have a fallen heart and a fallen spirit, and these have to be replaced by a new heart and a new spirit. Why is this? Because the Holy Spirit, the eternal God, cannot dwell in a fallen spirit. It would have been very helpful if in verse 27, you know, let's read verse 26 first. Ezekiel 36:26. "A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh." And verse 27, "And I will put my spirit." See, this is quite different to verse 26, which said, "I will give you a new spirit." That's one thing. That's the human spirit, which had been damaged by the fall of our first parents, Adam and Eve. But in verse 27 it now says, "And I will put my spirit within you." So the Holy Spirit dwells in our human spirit, but it has to be a human spirit that has not been fallen. "And cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them." So the idea that we do not have to worry about statutes and judgments goes right by the wayside, because it's in the New Testament that the Holy Spirit is given to us, and it tells us quite clearly there that by the indwelling Holy Spirit, by the indwelling Godhead, we will be able to walk in the statutes of God and keep his judgment.